Hello, my name is Amit Thakre and I am from Department of Criminology, Raksha Shakti University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The title of today's module is Cybercrime, its History and Evolution. This module is basically focusing on dynamics of cyberspace to understand users' vulnerability to cyber victimization, to study history and evolution of cybercrime, and to look at intervention to cybercrime from individual and international perspective. The objective of this module is to study about the dynamics of cyberspace, to understand the vulnerability of internet users to cyber victimization aroused due to persistent resilience on internet in modern lifestyle. Also to study history and evolution of cybercrime, to look at intervention perspective of cybercrime from individual and international level. After finishing this module, the reader shall be able to understand following things. Number one, the dynamics of cyberspace in which cybercriminal interacts with its target. Number two, the vulnerability of internet users to cyber victimization aroused due to persistent resilience on internet in today's lifestyle. Number three, history and evolution of cybercrime. Number four, intervention of cybercrime from individual and international level. Now, cybercrime or computer-related crime is crime that involves a computer and a network. The computer may have been used in the commission of a crime, or it may be the target. According to Debarati Haldar and K. Jaishankar, who defined cybercrime as offences that are committed against individuals or groups or individuals with criminal motive to intentionally harm the reputation of the victim or cause physical or mental harm or loss to the victim directly or indirectly using modern telecommunication networks such as internet, which involves networks including limited to chat rooms, email notice boards and groups, and mobile phones such as Bluetooth, SMS or MMS. Cybercrime may threaten a person or a nation's security and financial health. Issues surrounding these type of crimes have become high profile, particularly those surrounding hacking, copyright infringement, unwarranted mass surveillance, child pornography, and child grooming. There are also problems of privacy when confidential information is intercepted or disclosed lawfully or otherwise. Debarati Haldar and K. Jaishankar further defined cybercrime from the perspective of gender and defined cybercrime against women as crimes targeted against women with a motive to intentionally harm the victim psychologically and physically using modern telecommunication networks such as internet and mobile phones. Internationally, both government and non-state actors engage in cybercrimes, including espionage, financial theft, and other cross-border crimes. Activity crossing international borders and involving the interest of at least one nation state is sometimes referred to as cyber warfare. In cases of computer where it is used as target, these crimes are committed by a selected group of criminals. Unlike crimes using the computer as tool, these crimes require the technical knowledge of the perpetrators. As such, as technology evolves, so too does the nature of crime. These crimes are relatively new, having been in existence for only as long as computers have been, which explains how unprepared society and the world in general is towards combating these forms of modern crimes. There are numerous crimes of this nature committed daily on the internet. Crimes that are primarily targeted computer networks or devices including computer viruses or denial of service attack, malware which involves malicious codes. In cases where computer is used as tool, when the individual is main target of the cybercrime, the computer can be considered as the tool rather than the target. These crimes generally involve less technical expertise. Human weaknesses are generally exploited in these forms of crime. The damage done is dealt largely by psychological and intangible, making legal action against the variants more difficult. There are crimes which have existed for centuries in offline world. Scams, theft and likes have existed even before the development in high-tech equipments. The same criminal has simply been given a tool which increases his potential pool of victims and makes him all the harder to trace and apprehend. Crimes that use computer networks or devices to advance other ends include fraud and identity theft. Although this increasingly uses malware, hacking, and or phishing, making it an example of both computer as tool and target. Information warfare, phishing scams, spam, propagation of illegal obscene or offensive content, including harassment and threats, are some other examples. The unsolicited sending of bulk emails for commercial purposes, such as spams, is unlawful in some jurisdictions. Phishing is mostly propagated via email. Phishing emails may contain links to other websites that are affected by malware, or they may contain links to fake online banking or other websites used to steal private account information. The broad diffusion of cybercriminal activities is an issue in computer crimes detection and prosecution. According to Jean-Luc Reichert, technical expertise and accessibility no longer acts as barrier to entry into cybercrime. Indeed, hacking is much less complex than it was in few years ago, as hacking communities have greatly diffused their knowledge through the internet. Blogs and communities have hugely contributed to information sharing in 21st century. Beginners could benefit from older hackers' knowledge and get advice from them. Furthermore, hacking is cheaper than ever. Before the cloud or computing era, in order to spam or scam, one needed a dedicated server or skills in server management, network configuration and maintenance, knowledge of internet service provider standards, etc. By comparison, a mail software as a service is a scalable, inexpensive, bulk and transactional email sending services for marketing purposes could be easily set up for spam. Jean-Luc Reichert explains that cloud computing could be helpful for a cybercriminal as a way to leverage his attack. Brute forcing a password, improve the reach of a botnet, or facilitating a spamming campaign. Cybercrime refers to only those forms of crime that are related to computers and networks. Apart physically committing crimes using computers, cybercrimes are majorly done in cyberspace. William Gibson, who coined the term cyberspace in his literary work Neuromancer in 1984, for the first time described about electronic activities that take place in the virtual world. From criminological point of view, to explain the causes of crime in cyberspace, Jaishankar in 2007 propounded space transition theory. The theory, with 7 postulates, explains how an individual's behavior differs in physical and cyberspace that could lead to commission of crimes in cyberspace. Crime is close sibling of human society. Both grew together in backyard of civilization and evolved progressively. They could never be able to ignore each other. The same is true for the internet. The internet was created for the good of one and all, but the good of internet has also brought evil by also creating a space with dark sides to it, because the huge potential of cyberspace has also been exploited by humans for committing modern day crimes. Broadly, cybercrimes poses 2 kinds of threats. One is targeting of computers or internet devices like identity theft, hacking, spam, phishing, defacing, websites, denial of service attack, botnet infection, etc. And 2, computers are used as tool to inflict harm on individual like stalking, blackmailing, gambling, smuggling, money transactions for trafficking of drug, human, weapons, and even gold. Cybercrime could easily be stated as the most advanced form of crime of our times. It is evolving with every new emerging technology and because of its easily accessibility of internet to masses, it also makes large number of people vulnerable to be victimized by cybercrime. The vulnerability of a common man to cybercrime is directly proportional to his or her reliance on internet for sustaining in modern lifestyle. Right from booking train tickets on IRCTC website to online payment for purchases from e-commerce website paying electrical and water bills, paying school fees, to paying taxes, and every daily chores of modern day's life are taken over by cyberspace. The vulnerability factor of citizen is further raised due to recent stance of Indian government to promote e-governance. We are virtually living in a cyberspace with a mobile in hand and with an internet connection. We are connected to other netizens who is also a habitual internet user, and we are able to pay bills in few clicks, which otherwise we have to stand in long queues earlier. Internet has become matter of preferential choice over all other means of doing things that require labor. People are willing to step in cyberspace because it offers convenience, but the convenience offered by the internet has also its ramification if one is not aware of risk involved and knows ways to mitigate them. Lack of awareness about cybercrime is a major problem in India. Due to lack of awareness on preventive measures, numerous citizens on daily basis are falling prey to cybercrimes such as email frauds, phishing, cyber stalking, etc. Going further, if you look at the specific definition of cybercrime, it varies as per the evolution of cybercrime and the way certain organization has defined it based on their tackling expertise. For instance, US Department of Justice broadly refers to cybercrime as forms of crime that involves computer and networks. Cybercrime can also be defined in terms of its commission, that is, either using computer as means or as target. Parthasarathi in 2012 defined cybercrime as an illegal activity that uses computer to commit crime. Crimes that are committed by using computers including breaching confidentiality, violation of rights to privacy, infringing integrity of database security stored in the system, breach in copyright content, etc. Cybercrimes are different forms of conventional crimes in one peculiar way, that is, in commission of cybercrime, there is an involvement of virtual cyberspace. In order to define cybercrimes elaborately, Santanam and al. Extended the classification of cybercrimes beyond tool and target by further classifying cybercrimes into person, property, and victimless crimes. In terms of cybercrimes wherein computer is used as tool, a victim is targeted to inflict psychological pain or discomfort. The modus operandi is usually subtle and ambiguous. In case of cybercrime, where computer is used as tool, it is hard to apprehend the offender because usually the act is done from remote location, or at times it may be a case of cross-border international origin. The factor of anonymity from the offender side and high vulnerability from victim side increases the propensity of cybercrimes wherein computer is used as tool. Interestingly, unlike cybercrimes where computer is used as tool, in case where computer is used as target, it is mostly committed by perpetrators in groups. These forms of cybercrimes are even more complex than previous category because in order to target computers, usually a group of individuals with very high and varying level of skill sets with common malintentions are at work here. Some of the examples where a group of expertise could target a uniform public system to cause disruption are citywide power grid shutdown, or creating anomalies in digital banking sector, or breaking down a hospital emergency services, or maybe shutting down public transportation system. In cybercrime against people, cyber harassment is quite common. The onslaught of cyberspace to discriminate and harass people from diverse or minor groups in terms of sexuality, race, skin color, nationality, or socioeconomic background is leading cause of victimization in present era. Similarly, cybercrimes are carried against private institutions, businesses, or famous corporate houses for gaining financial edge through unfair means or causing harm to brand's reputation by unethical use of cyberspace. On a more severe scale, a cyber scale is also exploited to target governments in power. For example, cyber terrorism is major cause of concern for all the governments across the world. Cyberspace has already become an effective tool to terrorize the citizens by organizations with terror propaganda or by some terrorist outfits. Cyberspace is not only used to terrorize people, but it is also used as a means to render terrorist service uninterrupted, may it be international funds transactions for weapon trafficking or financial transactions for terrorist activities. Detection and prevention of such illicit activities in cyberspace is crucial to mitigate cyber terrorism at all levels. If you look at the history, hacking holds a prominent position in history of cybercrimes. The term hacking was used for the first time in the year 1960 when a group of people modified MIT model train to fix its problem. Dennis Ritchie and Keith Thompson were part of that team, who later went on to develop Unix operating system in Bell Labs, a hack to improvise original computer codes. Until then, hacking was synonymous to fixing a problem or improvising the efficiency of existing system. After a decade in 1970s, the meaning of hacking changed from good to bad. The first notable incident of hacking done with malintention was by a group called Phreakers, who modified codes of computerized phone system to steal free time to long distance call services. The history of cybercrime would be incomplete if the story of evolution of cyber laws be missed. Interestingly, when cybercrimes were emerged and causing unprecedented losses, legislation was stunned and hence silent to curb this menace. Over time, legislation reformed. It amended itself to incorporate new forms of cybercrime, but the law was always a step behind emerging forms of crimes in cyberspace. It was not only that legislation was catching up with volatile nature of cybercrime evolution, but even law enforcement was struggling to match up with the pace of cyber criminals who are driven by technical knowledge. In an interesting case of cybercrime against government, police used an age-old technique to catch an advanced offender. In 1986, Marcus Hess, a hacker from West Germany, was stealing military information from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in US and selling it to the KGB. On noticing irregularities in data by Clifford Stoll, who was the system administrator at LBNL, Stoll used honeypot tactics to lure back hacker to steal more data. Stoll tracked the hacker to its source and arrested Marcus Hess and his team from West Germany. Now, seeing an upsurge in cases of hacking, the first hacking related act was passed in 1986 by US Congress after a computer virus named Morris Worm created by Cornell University student by the name Robert Morris. The worm infected more than 6,000 computers and people lost rupees 635 crores. In recent times, there were many such similar computer viruses that inflicted huge financial losses to corporate houses, governments or citizens across the globe. For instance, there are some examples. Melissa virus, which was created by Davis Smith in 1999, it was an email activated virus which caused rupees 777 crore 66 lakh damage and losses worldwide. I Love You virus, which was created by Onel de Guzman in 2000, it erased files from computer, reset internet setting, and it steals password, which caused rupees 97,267 crore and 50 lakh in damage worldwide. There is another virus called Code Red, which was created in 2001, which overwrites memory, leading to system crash, which caused rupees 12,967 crores in losses. Historically, the kind of computer usage also poses subsequent threat to internet users. Briefly, looking at the past, 60s was the era when military and scientific institutions used internet for efficiency enhancement, and that made sensitive data vulnerable to hackers. The time of 70s was an era of cybercrime targeted towards illicit financial gains through hacking in economic institutions such as banks and industries. During 80s and 90s, privacy and security issues came to fore, such as child pornography and extremism took hold of world attention. Subsequently, since 60s to 90s, computer viruses began to evolve and break in new security firewall from varied sources in order to destabilize governments and maybe cause chaos or damage or losses among masses. If you look at the evolution of cybercrime, human civilization came a long way from abacus to modern day high-speed computers. This transition is one of the crucial developments witnessed by humanity because it has changed the way of living and except select few remotely located people, it has almost affected everybody's life. Although this transition took its time and it was longer time to make evolution in cybercrime quite visible. Cybercriminal evolved with time. They changed their strategies in convergence with advancement in technology to commit cybercrimes. The technically skilled criminals prefer to work in cyberspace because there's not much physical exertion involved in it, and seemingly cybercrimes yield maximum financial rewards with minimal risks of being caught. Given the anonymity factor it involves in cybercrime, it becomes all the more lucrative. The cyber criminals have made use of developing or developed nations' propaganda of computerization as means for sustaining sustainable growth for the country. In past few decades, there has been a continuous upsurge in recorded number of cybercrimes across the world. The more people are connected to the e-world networking, the more are chances of victimization, from malware, viruses, and phishing. Over the decade, the evolution of cybercrime can be categorized in 4 major segments that have variations in terms of type of threat poses to the target. 80s was the time when emails came as revolutionary forms of communication with minimal cost and high-speed facility. This was the time when personal computers were majorly targeted by spam. This was done to trick the victim by offender who acquires a false identity to fraudulently gain personal information from the victim or steal his or her identity. Then came the period of 90s. Viruses were sporadically surfacing across the world and making news for causing huge damages to governments, corporate houses, and individuals. The vector used is web browser to transfer viruses to victim system whenever one gets online. The virus is a code that replicates itself to fill up the space and infects functionality of other programs adversely. It either damages, deletes, or hampers the productivity and efficiency of the system. The era of 2000s was a social networking era which gained its maximum pace during this time, and the users became highly vulnerable to identity theft by cybercriminal. The present time is time of advancement and easily availability of smartphones. Now everyone is connected to internet almost at all times. Mobile devices have become the means of digital interaction and modes of payments. This situation also posed a serious problem of m-commerce theft with highly personal and financial details stored in the mobile. Mobile transactions are not adequately protected by legal measures as well, which further motivates cyber offenders to target naive smartphone users. If we look at specific year-wise evolution of cybercrime, in 1997, cybercrimes and virus initiated. In 2004, malicious code, Trojans, and advanced worms initiated. In 2007, identity theft and phishing gathered pace. In 2010, DNS attack, rise of botnets, SQL attacks, competitive sabotage escalation happened. In 2013, social engineering, denial of service attack, malicious emails, ransomware attacks, point of sale compromised. Presently, banking malwares, keyloggers, Bitcoin wallet stealer, identity theft, mobile hacking, ransomware, cyber warfare, Android hack attacks are at high. Now if we conclude, cybercrime need to be viewed from 2 broad perspectives. One is individual and other is at the international level. It is the cyberspace in which existence of cybercriminal thrives. Based on the computer networks, the behavior of cybercriminal in cyberspace is illustrated in space transition theory. It is important to understand space transition theory because it explains the causes of criminal behavior in cyberspace. And majority of people are vulnerable due to sharing their space with cybercriminals in cyberspace. It is essential to understand the kind of threats posed by cybercriminal which shall enable internet users to mitigate risk factors in day-to-day communication or interface in computer networks. Secondly, looking at cybercrimes from the international perspective, the history of cybercrime shows that statistics of cybercrimes at international levels are growing with emergence of advanced forms of criminal assaults in cyberspace. The evolution of cybercrimes has to do with legislative regulations as well. In addition to that, cybercrimes need to be dealt with trans-border perspective as well. Considering the volatile nature of cyberspace, that allows for potential offenders a space to commit crime anonymously without any restrictions across territories. In order to tackle the problem of cybercrime at international level, all the countries need to synergize their efforts to bring uniformity in their cyber laws for adequately responding to threats posed by cybercriminals sitting in remote parts of the world. Thank you for watching.